Talk kings, when men talk about real life. King talk, when men come from all walks of life. Situations about life, pitfalls, God, women, and downfalls. Our lives, and everything that we go through. For kings, with exclusive insight to our world. Now walking the talk kings, real kings talk about real things. Welcome to Talk Kings, where real kings talk about real things. Talk Kings, Talk Kings. Welcome to Talk Kings. Welcome to Talk Kings, where real kings talk about real things.
Welcome to Talk Kings, where real kings talk about real things. Appreciate y'all coming back and check us out again at the bar. We're gonna have a good time today, guys. When I was a young guy, I could never imagine, you know what I'm saying, what I do now, I could never imagine back then. But a lot of things happen with a young kid, probably from that 13 to 18, that, really changes and kind of shapes them for the future. And there were some things that I did back in those times that I'm not proud of. And I don't know if I would change it or not, but what about you, Dietrich? What about some things that maybe from 13 to 18, you go back and tell yourself, hey, young D, don't do that, or young D, you should, or whatever. What would you tell yourself?
Oh man. One thing is all of that stuff that I was trying to go towards will come if I focus on what my abilities were. I was really good in sports. I was really good in music. But because it came easy for me, I didn't work at it. I was able to do what everybody else would do without lifting weights, without, working, getting in track and all other stuff. So my thing was find what you want to do and work at it relentlessly. I didn't really work at that stuff. Also, ladies will come, the girls will come. Stop focusing on the women and stuff like that. While something good came out of it, I got my children and stuff like that, and I was married, was going on 10 years. And that was great coming from it, but where I would have been if I would have stayed focused, totally different, totally different. So it's no regret, but with me being a coach now, I kind of tell other kids, hey, why don't you focus on this? All of that other stuff will come later on in life. Focus on if you play baseball, if you play football, if you're just really smart in school, focus on that stuff right now, and all other stuff will eventually come.
Do you think it was something that, that if you would have done, what would have changed? What aspiration you think?
No doubt that I wouldn't have been in the league.
Okay.
No doubt. I mean, no, when I say no doubt, I would have been in the league or I would have been on somebody's stage performing. So it's just choices I made, I really wasn't, me and Johnny was talking on the ride, and I didn't really dream. I was taught to just kind of really working, working to make sure you got insurance, health benefits, and stuff like that. You had a job. But I was never really taught to dream big of being famous or, being in the league or anything like that. I was just, you work hard and you get a job and provide for your family.
Yeah.
Well, for me, it's completely opposite. I mean, of course, I did dream big. And, I knew kind of what I wanted in life because I knew what I didn't want to have anymore was the situation I was in. So, and Grandma did a great job raising me. Wouldn't change anything, wouldn't change the experience. But if I had to go back and really look at that, the biggest thing for me to focus, and my grandma just always said, get your education, get your education, get your education. But man, I think I would have took that a little more serious. I think just from a tutorial standpoint, learning how to read and be a great reader at an early age, how important that is as you become an adult, is knowing, hey, how important reading is, just communication. Learn how to communicate with not just your own, but learn how to communicate with everybody. So it was so many things that I had to learn along the way that I didn't have somebody to show me. And the education piece, reading, communications, all that stuff is very important. And I think now you can't shut me up. but going back, man, it was embarrassing times at one point, with my reading. and I had to play catch up. And boy, did I ever. So athletics, that was a given. You know, those things were just part of the community, your everyday living, that's getting by. But what came hard and was difficult for me at the time was education, learning how to read, and boy, when I realized it, I threw everything into my education later on.
Were you speaking about that situation? Were you nervous to let people know that you couldn't read? Because it could have been a situation where you were so nervous, and it's kids today that's probably dealing with the same thing. They can't read or they can't do something, and because they have fear of ridicule or rejection, they never learn how to read because they never let nobody know that that's the issue.
Well,
How was it for you back then?
it was embarrassing because a lot of times, I mean, they was busing us from. I was on a bus for probably 15, 20 miles, going from my community all the way out to Gulfgate Elementary, and I can recall sitting in class, and when you get called to read, you almost like try to catch a paragraph that you think it might be when it's your
Right.
turn to read. You
Right.
try to see what the catchwords are, the big words or whatever. And it was embarrassing, And I knew back then, they had the teacher assistants that come get you out of class and all
Right.
that stuff. And then in middle school, my teachers pushed me. I mean, Miss Flynn, my 7th grade teacher, was one of my biggest influences because she made sure she focused in on certain things when it came to me and reading, making sure I learned the basics.
Right.
Learn how to read. It wasn't just reading, it's learn how to read, how to pick up a book, finish a book from start to finish. Those are just things we just didn't do in my house. And you just didn't pick up a book and start reading. So I learned just to start reading, man, and then my brother, who's one of the smartest guys I've met, I mean, he can read a book from cover to cover and almost tell you verbatim, remember everything, the big words, everything. So I wanted to be that. I wanted to be able to talk like that. I wanted to be able to communicate like that. But it was embarrassing at times, not knowing how to read or what I was reading. So, of course, in the comprehension. And I think that if you look at it as a black man, a lot of times, even on the standardized test, it was always comprehension. We can handle math a lot of times, but the comprehension and reading always got us. So I always wanted to just learn how to read, man. And that was my thing. And now, shoot, I read everything.
Right. Big J, you 13 to 18. A lot of things were going on back then. What would you tell your younger self?
Well, I'm sitting here a little teary-eyed right now because it's a touchy subject for what I want to say. And it's, my mama done the best she could by raising 3 boys, without no man. And she done a great job with us. We never wanted for nothing, but we didn't have what, most kids had. And I wish I would have
Speak up a little bit.
wish I would have took more time, listening to my mother. My mother, only thing she preached to us was keep your credit together. That's all you're gonna have. Anything about the streets, anything about life, anything about sports, I learned on my own. I never had a man figure to look at or somebody to really grab me by my wing, and take me through. And losing my mom at 23 years old, man, it's like I was still a kid for real. I was grown on my own, but I was still a kid. And when I was 13, I was alcoholic. I was Alcoholics Anonymous at 15 years old. Trying to drink away, I don't know. Like I said, I came from a good household with just a mother, but I know it would have been a lot different if a man was in the house or a good uncle was there, or this is very touching to me, man, because I really don't have no answer for it, but I was lost in them times. So I can kind of reflect on what these 13 and 15-year-olds going through. Majority 13, 15-year-old kids now, no man in the house, mother on Section 8, rent might be $32. The mother feel like they independent because she can pay her bills, but she's really not independent because you still lacking stuff that can get to your child. Your male child. There's a lot of females that really need guidance too, but I relate on where I was at 13 and 15-year-old. I could have easily been one of these people now. I was out trying to sell drugs, drinking alcohol, robbing. I could have easily been dead or in penitentiary, but I just got through the cracks. So that's why I put so much emphasis on these kids now. You know, I was talking to Deidre on the way here. My English teacher, I failed her 2 years in a row, and she was at my house every other Saturday. Her and my mama going to yard sales together. I just ain't take school seriously too. They closed Wilson down. I went to Norfolk. I hated to go to Norfolk, but that was the best thing that happened to me. I was an honor roll student. I got there. You know, but just being from where I'm from, man, and looking at what these kids going through now, I can really relate to what they're going through. They don't have no guidance. No guidance at all, man.
Yeah, it's interesting. I know, that we would never ever be able to go back and tell ourselves anything. But it is interesting that we can identify that there were some things in our life that if we could change, we probably would, right? And when we come back after the break, I'm gonna tell you my side of it and how I look at it, and then we'll go a little bit deeper into some of the things that y'all talked about because, some 13, 18-year-old right now needs some help, needs somebody to tell them something. We just hope that one of them look at this and learn from some of our pain because it's purpose in the pain. We're here for a reason. So we'll be right back after the break. Thanks for tuning in to Talk Kings, where real kings talk about real things. Welcome back to Talk Kings, where real kings talk about real things. Right before the break, man, we had a touchy subject, and we're gonna keep talking about it because a lot of people need to hear that and need to know that you're not alone. For me, if I went back, talk to my 13 to 18, I'll tell him that life's gonna be okay, right? Because at that point in my life, I didn't know if life was gonna be okay. To be honest, I was trying to follow whoever was gonna give me some love. You know what I'm saying? Whether it was the guys on the streets or whatever, you know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna sit and tell you that I was a notorious, drug dealer or anything to that fact, but I did run in those circles. And, my mother was a drug addict. And I was embarrassed every day. What I saw from my mother and my friends knew my mother. They joked on me about my mother. Hard. But I would tell myself that it's gonna be okay because sometimes you need to hear that. You know what I'm saying? You need to know that you don't have to follow the guys. I didn't have to follow the trends. I didn't have to, do all the things that I felt to be accepted. And I think that's what's going on now. A lot of kids, they want to be accepted, right? Or they making them be accepted too. And for me, if I could go back and just say, hey man, look, all the heartache, all the nights that you lay in the bed wondering where your mother is at, or if you're ever gonna see your father, or just are you scared to go outside because guys saying they're gonna do something to you? You can't go to the mall. Like I used to walk to a mall called Tower Mall. I couldn't walk to Tower Mall because dude said he was gonna get me. You know what I'm saying? And guess what? I went to Tower Mall. He showed right up. And the funny thing about it, man, I was coming out the little record store we had in Tower Mall, and he was standing right there. He started smiling because I knew it was on. And some guy that I didn't even know, I'm from Carolina, the dude was from downtown. he stepped to the other guy and told him he ain't gonna do nothing to me. I don't know that guy to this day. I just attribute it to be an angel. Somebody shining down on me because he was gonna get me that day. You know what I'm saying? And you know, he was the bully of the block, and right now he's behind bars. He's serving life because he wasn't afraid to shoot back then. So that's what I would say. But you know, Larry, you know, anything on this? You got some more?
Well, the other part about it, man, you know, I had a lot of embarrassing moments. Even when I was young, man, at our rec center, I tried to jump over a wire fence, man, came down on my face and I bust my teeth out. You know, back then we go to the healthcare to get our teeth fixed. And so they nicknamed me the Gap Man. Nobody ever knew that. So don't call me Gap Man now. You know, one guy, Carl Leach, can still call me. That's who gave me the name. But he gave me the nickname Gap Man. And Coach, I had to get my teeth fixed. And that's why I smile so much now, because after getting them fixed and pearly whites, now it's a little different. But back then, Coach, it was rough. They put some caps on, Coach, and they turned colors. Man, I had to smile. It was, you know, it was always embarrassing. If you ever look at any of my pictures from elementary to middle school, I got them fixed in high school. But it was embarrassing. I couldn't smile, scared to talk to people, on top of the reading, getting in people's face. So it was a lot of things that contributed to all the stuff of the embarrassments. And then, of course, you know, I heard you talk about father not having that male figure around. I had men around, but I didn't have a father. So, and that was tough. I watched all my friends with their dads do things, and that was rough at times. But again, that's why I think I become the man I became, and that's why I wanted to always be a great father, be there for my boys. One thing I said, I never leave my boys no matter what.
Right.
Because I know what it felt like to not have that. So, you know, those are all the things that I wanted to make sure, you know, so if I went back, I did go back. But me going back was when I had my kids, never let them go through what I went through with some of those personal things. As far as life things, you go through it. But personal things, I didn't want them to have to feel some of the hurt I felt as a young kid, as a young teenager coming up.
Yeah, and you know, Johnny, you know, we love you to death, brother, and we sit up here, just by knowing these other two, they still have both of their parents. Me, I just recently found out that I lost my father, 2017. I wasn't able. I always wanted to sit down with my dad, just to let him know that I made it through. And I never got that opportunity, but my mother's still alive, and to lose your mother at a young age. And I know this is tough for you, so if you can't answer those questions, that's cool. How do you cope with that? Because I know you're still hurting because I can see it in your face. How do you cope with that so that you can help somebody else cope with that?
I mean,
because somebody is dealing with the same thing.
in reality, I ain't gonna say I make it out of a joke, but my mother died when I was 23. I was still running wild, slapped down because my son was born. I was 19, but I was still dibbling and dabbling and running here, running there. But because in the back of my mind, I said, well, if I go to jail, I know don't nobody else pick up the phone for me. My mama gonna pick up the phone, gonna be there. So when I watched my mama take her last breath in the hospital when I was 23, one part of my mind was like, man, just go do anything you want to do crazy, blame it on you lost your mom. Other side of my mind was like, boy, got two brothers, but you know for sure mama gonna be there, put some money in your book, whatever, you know. So I transitioned that to, you know, start getting more into the baseball league I grew up in, you know what I'm saying? And started coaching out there, became the vice president out there. You know, just the crime that's going on in Portsmouth now, they coached 3 kids that died on the streets in Portsmouth. You know, just last week in Portsmouth, we lost a 14-year-old getting off the school bus, 2 16-year-olds and a 17-year-old in, a 48-hour time period, you know what I'm saying? So you saying between 13 and 15, we had it rough, but these kids got it like 5 or 6 times worse than we did. I don't have an answer for the crime problem, but I try to make myself available to reach out to kids that I know, you know, just to tell them, look, man, everything will be all right. Or, you know, just call me. I pass out my number. But these days, from when I was growing up, your neighbor can say something to you and your mother don't say nothing. But now you can't even say nothing to some of these people's kids because the mama is just so rah rah rah. He don't say nothing to my child, but in the whole time, the child needs some help and guidance.
Can I ask the panel? I want to ask everybody a question. So, with all this, what we're saying here, do we think, as men, do we think we've dealt with our own personal issues from our younger youth, from our youth days? Do we think we still have issues that we haven't dealt with or hit head on? You know, as you start talking about the mental anguish and some of the things we hold deep inside, 'cause you know, as a black man, I hold a feeling inside, and when it comes out in a different way. And sometimes that feeling been bottled up so long, it don't always come out the way it should,
Right
or it
way,
come out a
yeah.
little more aggressive. So, with that being said, how do y'all think y'all are handling some of your past, you know, aggressions or issues? Do you think you've dealt with them as a grown man? Do you think you've really dealt with them to this day?
I haven't. You know, because and one of my issues is my dad. When I was younger, he was in the house, but still, I don't recollect him being a dad. He left when I was younger. He moved down Virginia Beach. I used to go see him, whatever, but still wasn't a dad. So I had a little breakdown like 2-3 years ago, and we're looking for him. This girl I know found him. We connected on Facebook. He's my Facebook friend right now, but he don't say nothing to me. So I feel as a child I shouldn't have to keep reaching out to you. I tried to make the connection. You know, he called me from Newport News. He was in a home. I moved him from Newport News to Norfolk, me and my wife. We get him to Norfolk. On the way to Norfolk, he say, you know, I can get your mama death benefits. And I'm looking at him like, you talking about my mama dying? We need to talk about reconnecting. So we take him to Walmart, made him some groceries, took him, bought him a couple outfits, moved him, pots and pans, moved him in his apartment. I ain't heard from him since. But we connected on Facebook a couple months ago, but he don't keep up with me, and I don't keep up with him. And there's so much I want to say to him, but I know it's not gonna end well. So I try to wash my hands with it. I try to be what, like you said earlier. I try to be that to my kids that I didn't have. You know, be that dad. I mean, I die today tomorrow. It ain't nothing my kids can say, I wish my dad done this, or I wish my dad would have done this. You know what I'm saying? I try to be the best dad I can be to my kids so they don't feel that void that I feel now. I don't talk to nobody about it. I deal with it kind of okay, but I'm not over it. I'm 43 years old now, and it still bothers me because I wonder what life would have been like if he just would have stepped up.
So hold that thought. We'll come back. I'm gonna let you say what you was going to say. I'm gonna let Dietrich answer the question, and I'll finish it off. Thank y'all for tuning in. We'll go back. Thank y'all for tuning in. We'll head to the break. Welcome back to Talk Kings, the real kings talk about real things. Very, very touchy subject, and I appreciate guys when y'all just keep it real, because at the end of the day, that's what we're here for. Talk to each other and keep it real. You was going to say something before the break about, I guess the topic that Johnny was talking about.
Well, you know, as we sit here and talking, I know some of our past shows that we've talked about, and I was just talking about just listening to everybody's kind of past and the issues and how they were raised, or going back. Do you think now that with mental anguish, mental health, do you think still today you need counseling, or we need counseling to deal with some of the things we saw or dealt with in our youth?
I agree we do. I've noticed here recently some of the things that have happened in my past that I never really let go of, but being a dad, coming from a strong dad, felt like I never had time to. I still got to raise kids. I got teenagers. So I don't have time to wallow in sad about this or learning to get over this and stuff. So I never really noticed that I didn't deal with it until I start talking about the subject. When I talk about the subject, I'm sitting here saying that I'm not a guy that really does a lot of crying, but when I talk about the subject, I can't stop from happened to you as fall. So that tells me there's something that I got to deal with. You know, counseling a lot of times does help. So you know, I don't want to hold up all the time, but yes,
No.
I do agree that we do need to some issues that I have that I do need to solve.
Yeah, I think, and it goes back to what we talked about, and I'm not gonna say that any of us don't want to go get counseling. I just think it's just easiest to not. The easy thing to not do is just to deal with it, and sometimes we may deal with it the wrong way, and we got to get better at that. And I think we use each other sometimes as counselors. You know what I'm saying? And you talking to your boy, and sometimes you just want to get it out, and sometimes you want to hear what his point of view is because maybe we just far off a rocker. You know what I'm saying? For me, definitely, it's definitely things that I go through today, even with my wife or my kids, and it brings back a memory from back in the day, whether it was negative or positive. I think everything we do in life has a negative and positive attribute to it. But I appreciate y'all, and the biggest thing I love about y'all is y'all just keep it real. And I know that's what we talk about, and that's the moniker of the show, but we really are talking about real life stuff that we go through. And for somebody to sit up here and have tears or whatever we've had over the past couple of episodes, I appreciate that. You know, I appreciate y'all coming and hanging with me, and I also appreciate everybody who tune in and watch us on all social media networks, on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all that great stuff, Hulu, whatever we're going to do. But anyway, before we get off, shout out to Manly's Lemonade. How was the lemonade today, guys?
I feel like I'm a lemonade connoisseur. That's great.
Hey, shout out to Manly's Lemonade, young guy, man, making lemonade here in our local Portsmouth, Virginia area. If you got a chance, go ahead and check them out. But again, thanks for tuning in for Talk Kings. We'll see y'all next week.
King Talk, where men come from all walks of life. Situations about life, pitfalls, God, women, and downfalls. Our kings, where men talk about real life. King Talk, where men come from all walks of life. Situations about life, pitfalls, God, women, and downfalls. Our lives, and everything that we go through. For kings, with exclusive insight to our world. Now walking the Talk Kings, real kings talk about real things. Welcome to Talk Kings, where real kings talk about real things. Talk Kings, Talk Kings, Talk Kings, where men talk about real life. King Talk, where men come from all walks of life. Situations about life, pitfalls, God, women, and downfalls. Our lives, and everything that we go through. For kings, with exclusive insight to our world. Now walking the Talk Kings, real kings talk about real things. Welcome to Talk Kings, where real kings talk about real things. Talk Kings, Talk Kings. Welcome to Talk Kings. Welcome to Talk Kings, where real kings talk about real things.